Um, Welcome to the first episode of The Nest. I'm Gianni Fiore,
I'm Colton Van Cleave.
And I'm Jackson Boisvert.
and so this is our first episode.
First episode.
Very
First episode of the
exciting.
semester, Yeah.
Actually, our first time since freshman year we've done this. We did the show last year, never got out to YouTube. We're back after a year. It's exciting, I like it.
Very different format, as you can see. We also have a new member with us. So it's an exciting
An
times here.
upgraded studio.
Yeah, upgraded
It's
studio.
not a closet anymore.
No, oh my gosh. Memories. Wow.
Good times.
So, the direction we're taking the show is entirely new. After a year hiatus from it, Colton and I have done a lot of talking about the way we want this to go, the way we're trying to kind of build our careers moving forward as, young professionals. And podcasting's probably the wave.
Again, new format, and also I feel like even just I can speak for myself, kind of new, direction in which I'm kind of going now. I think freshman year, of course, we were always into like the TV journalism and all that kind of stuff. A lot has changed in a year. I'm not really set my focus for TV journalism. I think I'm more interested in film and the production side of things too. So this is, of course, just a resume builder for anything for any of us, and I think this can definitely be also a shining example for comm students to really get involved and try to showcase their talents.
Oh, definitely.
Sure. And I think it's important that as we go forward, we are trying to find our groove through hosting, through doing the show as we go. We're trying to figure it out as we go, right? So, yeah. What do you say? We get right into it?
Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's break down something that I think has been the topic of the news, the main topic of the past 2 weeks, really. And it's this impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump. It was initiated on September 24th, 2019 by Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. And this was after, of course, a whistleblower reported that Trump allegedly abused his power in regards to asking the Ukraine to help him investigate Joe Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. So let's get right into it. What do you guys think about all that?
Well, I definitely see that this is totally BS in what's going on, because I definitely see this as let's be very clear about something. This wasn't in any case an impeachable offense, because what a president is able to ask for foreign help in an ongoing criminal investigation. And I think when, of course, the media says that this is an impeachable offense, that's totally not the case at all. A president is able to ask for foreign help for an ongoing criminal investigation.
Jackson, do you agree?
So I'm honestly not too well versed in this topic, but I do think it's very interesting with everything going on. I mean, I've been looking at articles. I actually have a couple up here that I'd like to maybe talk to you about.
Of course.
But it's just very interesting. Like, I kind of get what you're saying, like, for sure. If there's ongoing, foreign aid, I mean, America does it all the time we are always kind of like this superhero of a nation where we're always one of the first ones in, last ones out when there's crises going on. So to have criminal investigations, in our own country, to be seeking foreign help with it, I can kind of understand that. But the thing with Trump, in what I kind of understand why a lot of people are kind of like iffy with him and why, is he's very, he's not soft-spoken. He says how he feels.
He's very unprecedented.
Yeah, very unprecedented.
Which is also a reason why I think a lot of people did vote for him, of course, in 2016, because he wasn't the average, of course, politician president.
Yeah, no, businessman. So he knows how to kind of take a room, and I feel like he kind of uses that to his advantage sometimes. Like, he always has press. Like, I feel we've been alive for a couple presidents, but we've been old enough to kind of really only experience maybe like two or three. Trump, Obama, and then Bush. So it's been, so off my understanding, like, this is the first time that, like, I feel like a president is really getting a lot of press.
Which, of course, even going off that, he's definitely getting a lot of press, of course. Most of the mainstream's negative, but, I think he also uses the press, to his advantage, because every time, of course, he gets coverage. That's more free publicity for him too.
Mm-hmm.
So it can go both ways, whether it's negative or positive. I think in some cases, President Trump does use it to his advantage in some ways.
Well, we actually just talked about something like this in our class with Shem.
Yeah.
Shout out James Shen.
Of course.
But we're talking about how FDR, during the time of, all the issues with Nazi Germany starting to rise power in the reign of Hitler, America was coming out of this great kind of depression. So what he was doing is he was using the radio to speak directly to the American people. And I feel like Trump kind of does that with Twitter. But he doesn't do it in the way that FDR did it. They described FDR as kind of like a Harvard guy. So he was very professional in the way he spoke and very great tone, really good speaker.
He was your stereotypical, of course, average presidential way of speaking. Yeah, sort of like a charisma to him.
Yeah.
So are we starting to say that maybe Trump's Twitter is not as presidential as, say, FDR's radio broadcasts?
Oh, of course not.
Oh, definitely
it's
not.
definitely not presidential, but I also think, for people to say that it's a bad thing, I think it's actually a good thing because, of course, those are his words, and you can take it for what it is through his Twitter. So there's no way you can spin Twitter because, it's his way of kind of reaching out, just like FDR's fireside radio broadcast, because they were, able to get out, reach right to the American people.
But that's tricky, I think, because I think some people, and especially the media has pointed this out too, that some of Trump's tweets can be really offensive.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think that the way, social media is, and especially with instant messaging, there's no emotion behind it. There's no way to interpret it. With journalism, when you write an article, the language you use, the way you frame it, is how your opinion is. When someone's just tweeting, there's not, first off, Twitter probably wasn't created to be used, for politics to be expressed like this. So it's totally crazy that that's kind of like a norm now. You have not just the president, but other government leaders, small government, local communities use it, but also, the U.S. government to just reach out to the people, to talk to. It's become, this whole revelation that,
radio, that's not a main medium anymore.
Not anymore,
Television,
but it used to be.
Of course, it's still a very, prominent medium that we use, but it's not like that anymore. Of course, social media, anybody can use social media. Anybody can, even the President of the United States. So I think that's also something really interesting to do. But
yeah,
as far as if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think that's of course up for debate. There's really no clear answer. Some people like it, some people don't. Personally, I like it because I think for any president, they should be able to kind of speak out regionally or speak out to the American people.
Oh yeah,
through their social media account.
For sure.
Now, of course, when you say the name calling that sometimes he does with people, personally, I don't think that's really, I think sometimes he takes a little too far. I think that's not really something he should do. For candidate Trump, I liked it. I think for President Trump, it's a little different.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on the fact that it's a great platform to use, Twitter and social media, because like FDR did, you get to talk right to the people.
But you have to do it responsibly too. I mean, when you are the president of the United States, you have to uphold a certain value. You represent America,
Absolutely.
Right? So you want to make sure that you are being respectful and almost calm, cool, and collected at all times. And I feel like some of these tweets can be direct attacks at some of his opponents, which, kind of going back to what you're saying, when he's on the campaign trail, that can be a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it from Democratic candidates even today, that they are going after each other online, offline, whatever it may be, on the debate stage or on Twitter, right? But I think as a president, like you were saying previously, that you need to just kind of, you can go too far sometimes.
But I think even without, I think he can still be able to, be Trump and be, he can still double down on his opponents because it's true. And I think everyone can agree that the media does spin a lot what he does in the mainstream. So I think the Twitter account is good for him because it allows him to say what exactly is on his mind without media spin. Now, can he do that without, giving people nicknames and all that kind of stuff? I think so, but I don't base my vote off of someone's, charisma and how they do it. Is it the way I would do things if I were president? No, I don't think I would be calling people, certain nicknames or whatever. I think personally, as a supporter of him, I think it's kind of funny, but I do also understand the implications behind it, because of course he's a president for all people, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes and I think he is, but I think sometimes with him calling people like Sleepy Joe or
Right.
whatever, I think it can sometimes put a negative effect in some people who don't agree with him.
So we're talking a lot about these tweets, right? I think we should bring in maybe an example. This one's from October 1st, and this was kind of Trump's response to the inquiry. And he says, "As I learn more and more each day, I am coming to the conclusion that what is taking place is not an impeachment, it is a coup intended to take away the power of the people, their vote, their freedoms, their Second Amendment, religion, military, border wall, and their God-given rights as a citizen of the United States of America." Is that what's happening with this impeachment inquiry?
Well, I think so, only because we've seen in the past with all these other attempts to bring down the president. We've ever since this president got into office, they've been pushing for impeachment. That's been their agenda this whole time, and I think that puts a bad taste for the American people, because impeachments divide the nation, and this nation is way more divided than even was a year ago because of this. So I think, again, going back to my original point, the actions of President Trump are not impeachable. For an ongoing criminal investigation, a president is allowed to ask for foreign help in this. So there shouldn't be even impeachment. Even before the White House transcript was released, Nancy Pelosi announced for the impeachment inquiry right before she even saw the transcript. And I think that's just jumping to the broad-based conclusion that this is impeachable defense. I think if people don't like how President Trump asked the Ukrainian government, then I think that's up to the voters in 2020, not up to Nancy Pelosi in the House.
I think it's also worth noting, though, that President Trump asked the Ukraine government to assist in investigating the Bidens while he's on the campaign trail for 2020, right? So I think the angle that the Democrats are taking here is that he is asking foreign government to participate in helping a political opponent of his go down. So is that allowed by a president? I don't know.
Well, given what the current climate is, that it is coming up to be an election season, that he is running for re-election, makes it very difficult to gauge, because is he focusing on his job as president right now, trying to find justice, making sure that if Joe Biden were to be elected, it would be it wouldn't be because he's not good, but also is he doing the side hustle of trying to get reelected? It's a slippery slope, because he's actively the president still, so he has a lot of responsibility with that, but he's also campaigning.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's the angle, that it is an abuse of power by asking a foreign government to aid you in taking down a political opponent. And that's what the whistleblower is saying too, that this was an abuse of power on Trump's part. So that's the whole debate, right?
Well, I think also too, in regards to the whistleblower, one, we don't know who the person is, of course, so yeah, that's coming out. But also, I think we do know that he's an ex-CIA operative, registered Democrat. And even before he was released, or the complaint was released, Adam Schiff, he even knew about the complaint before it was released. And then instead of going to the entire Congress, he actually went straight to Nancy Pelosi. So, of course, this is something that really should be looked into as well in regard to whistleblower.
So I actually have something right here from an article from BBC that was posted last week. And it basically talks about how the impeachment would go. And a cool point it shows how the impeachment process kind of goes with this really easy to understand graphic. It's like a tree that kind of just trickles down. So the 6 House committees investigating President Trump make submissions to the House Judiciary Committee, which considers the case for impeachment. If there's insufficient evidence, no wrongdoing found, he remains in office. However, if they find evidence of wrongdoing, the House votes on articles of impeachment. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Democrats that have control of the House right now, and the Republicans that have control of the Senate?
That's correct.
Yep.
So, if there's evidence of wrongdoing found, if we're going to speak in hypotheticals, the House being majority Democratic, I think it's a clear shot to say that they would most likely vote and impeach him, right?
The House would impeach him, yeah.
So a 51% majority would support the impeachment, while less than that, he would still remain in office. So if they get that 51%, he's impeached, and then the trial begins in the Senate. And that's when it starts getting legal, because they're not allowed to put a president on trial. He has to be impeached before they can, take legal action.
Of course. And I think, in regards to the House, of course this is just an inquiry just now, but if they ever were to push impeachment through the House, I think the Senate would definitely block it, of course. So I don't think, anything's going to happen in regards to the Senate, because it is, of course, Republican held, and I think that is a good thing. But I think definitely with in regards to, of course, like Nancy Pelosi and everything, it's amazing, because I think traditionally the Democrats have always said that, okay, she's a smart political player. And she's even been the one that said that we're not going to push impeachment, because she knows what happened to Bill Clinton in the 90s in regards with the Republicans and how that went bad for the Republicans. So I think she was the smart player in saying that we're not going to push impeachment, but now she's being pressured by her own caucus to push impeachment again, even before she even saw the White House transcript.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of moving parts here, and it just seems too chaotic. I think we need to focus on the real issues that, of course, face America, and I think we need to stop this whole impeachment process from happening.
Another thing to note too, kind of, that you brought up how Nancy Pelosi's feeling like pressured. I know that there's kind of like two different types of, Democrats in this country right now. There's kind of like the older members of the House, and then there's like the younger ones, like AOC. She's completely different than, Pelosi and some of the older guys that are a part of the Congress. So it's interesting that
it's a changing party.
Yeah, that even that these parties that have been around for such a long time, their views are like always growing. That they're like almost living, because of the people that make them up.
Sure. And I think it's an important thing. I think that there are people who want to hold this president accountable, and obviously there are people who don't think he's done anything wrong. It's a very liquid situation right now. It's constantly moving and constantly changing. We're learning new things every single day. So I think we'll just kind of follow this as it develops.
And I think the biggest thing, of course, is just, moving forward to, I guess, try to bring this country a little more together. It's just sticking on facts.
Yeah.
Sticking by facts, and then, of course, then we can just make decisions from there.
I think we'll wrap it up here for today and pick things up maybe next week with different topics, different stories. It's been a great first show. I'm happy to be here. Once again, I'm Gianni Fiore, newest member of the Nest, trying his best.
Newest member. Third one on the team.
Lucky to have him. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps it up for today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all back next week.